Tonight, we begin with something different. A story that whispers, rather than shouts, that flows like moonlight across still water. Before you settle into your pillows and pull the blankets close, take a moment to let the day's noise fade away. Let your breathing slow, your shoulders drop, and your mind prepare for a journey to a place where magic feels as natural as morning dew. This isn't just any bedtime story. This is a tale crafted for those quiet hours when sleep feels just out of reach, when your thoughts need somewhere gentle to wander. It's a story about love that grows slowly, like starlight emerging at dusk, and about courage that doesn't need to be loud to be real. Most importantly, it's a story designed to carry you peacefully into dreams. What you're about to hear is the tale of Princess Celeste and Archer Finn, two souls whose paths crossed under the most extraordinary circumstances. Their story unfolds in a kingdom where swans dance on crystal lakes, where ancient magic still hums through the forest, and where true love proves itself not through grand gestures, but through quiet acts of devotion and understanding. So close your eyes if you haven't already. Let your body sink deeper into comfort, because in the land of Ethermore, where our story begins, magic was as common as morning mist, and love as inevitable as the turning of seasons. And tonight, you're invited to witness how both can transform not just a kingdom, but the very hearts that dare to believe in them. In the kingdom of Ethermore, nestled between rolling emerald hills and forests that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light, there lived a princess whose beauty was whispered about in taverns and sung about in ballads. But Princess Celeste cared little for such praise. What stirred her heart was not the admiration of courtiers or the envy of neighboring royalty, but the simple pleasure of morning walks through her father's gardens and quiet evenings, reading by the great stone fireplace. Celeste had hair the color of spun moonbeams, silver white and luminous, that caught the light in ways that made even the palace servants pause in their duties. Her eyes were the deep blue of twilight skies, and when she smiled, which she did often and genuinely, it was said that flowers bloomed more brightly in her presence. Yet for all her ethereal beauty, the princess possessed a spirit as grounded as the ancient oaks that bordered the castle grounds. King Aldrich, her father, ruled Ethermore with wisdom and kindness, but as Celeste approached her 21st birthday, he grew troubled, not because his daughter lacked suitors, for princes and nobles journeyed from distant lands hoping to win her hand, but because she showed no interest in any of them. Each proposal was declined with grace but firmness, each elaborate courtship gesture met with polite appreciation, but no spark of genuine affection. The truth was, Celeste felt as if she were waiting for something, though she couldn't name what that something might be. She would often stand at her tower window, gazing out at the vast lake that bordered the castle's eastern wall, watching the swans glide across its mirror-like surface. There was something about their graceful movements, their effortless beauty, that called to a part of her soul she didn't fully understand. Meanwhile, in the village of Millbrook, a day's ride from the castle, lived a young man whose skill with a bow was legendary throughout the region. Finn had been orphaned as a child and raised by his grandfather, a master archer who had once served in the King's Guard. Under the old man's patient tutelage, Finn had developed not just exceptional marksmanship, but a deep respect for the natural world and all its creatures. Finn was tall and lean, with dark hair that always seemed slightly tousled by wind, and eyes the color of forest moss that missed nothing when he walked through the woodland. His hands were steady, His aim, true, but what set him apart from other archers wasn't just his skill, it was his philosophy. Finn believed that his bow should be used to protect, not to destroy, for sport or glory. He hunted only when necessary for food, and more often found himself using his abilities to rescue trapped animals or defend the village from the occasional wolf pack that wandered too close to the farms. The villagers loved him for his quiet strength and generous spirit. When old widow Marta's roof leaked, Finn was there with hammer and nails before she even asked for help. When the baker's cat disappeared, Finn spent 3 days searching the forest until he found it, safe but frightened, caught in a bramble thicket. Children would gather around him in the evenings, begging for stories of his adventures in the deep woods, and he would oblige them with tales that were always exciting, but never frightening, always brave, but never boastful. Yet like the princess he had never met, Finn felt something missing from his life. He would lie awake some nights, listening to the wind in the trees outside his cottage window, feeling as though he were meant for something more than his quiet existence in Millbrook. Not fame or fortune, for those things held no appeal for him, but some greater purpose that remained frustratingly unclear. It was on a crisp autumn morning, when the leaves had turned to gold and crimson, and the air carried the sweet scent of ripening apples, that fate decided to intervene in both their lives in the most unexpected way. Princess Celeste had risen early, drawn by the perfect stillness of the dawn and the promise of a peaceful walk through the castle gardens. She wrapped her favorite cloak, deep blue velvet lined with silver thread, around her shoulders and made her way quietly through the castle corridors, past sleeping guards and servants who wouldn't wake for another hour. The gardens were magnificent in the early light, heavy with dew that caught the first rays of sunlight like scattered diamonds. Celeste followed the winding path that led to her favorite spot, a marble bench positioned at the edge of the great lake, where she could watch the swans begin their morning rituals. But as she approached the water's edge, she noticed something was wrong. The swans, usually so serene and graceful, were agitated. They swam in tight, anxious circles, their necks stretched high, their calls sharp with distress. And there, floating near the center of the lake, was something that made Celeste's breath catch in her throat. It was a swan, unlike any she had ever seen, larger than the others, and with feathers that gleamed like polished silver in the morning light. But this magnificent creature was clearly in trouble. Its left wing hung at an odd angle, and it struggled to stay afloat, its movements weak and labored. Without thinking, Celeste began to wade into the lake, her silk slippers and the hem of her gown immediately soaked by the cold water. But the injured swan was too far out, and the lake too deep. She called to the creature softly, her voice filled with concern, but it only looked at her with eyes that seemed almost human in their intelligence and pain. It was then that she heard the sound of approaching hoofbeats. A lone rider was coming down the path that led from the main road to the castle, moving with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in wild places. Celeste should have been embarrassed to be found in such an undignified state, standing knee-deep in lake water with her royal gown clinging to her legs. But something about the stranger's calm demeanor put her immediately at ease. Finn had been traveling since before dawn, summoned by a message from the castle's head gamekeeper. There had been reports of poachers in the royal forest, and King Aldrich had specifically requested Finn's assistance in tracking them down. It was an honor that both thrilled and intimidated the young archer, his first official service to the crown. But as he crested the hill that overlooked the castle lake, all thoughts of his mission vanished. There in the water stood the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and she was clearly trying to help an injured swan that floated beyond her reach. Without hesitation, Finn dismounted and approached the water's edge. Their eyes met for the first time across the span of morning-bright water, and both felt something shift in the world around them, as if the very air had been charged with possibility. Princess Celeste saw not just a handsome young man with kind eyes and capable hands, but someone whose immediate concern was for the suffering creature in the lake, not for the impropriety of finding royalty in such a state. Finn saw not just a beautiful woman, though her ethereal loveliness took his breath away, but someone whose compassion had driven her to risk her own comfort and dignity for the sake of a wild creature. In that moment, he knew he would do anything in his power to help both the swan and the remarkable woman who cared so deeply for its welfare. Welfare. I can help, Finn said simply, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had spent countless hours navigating the challenges of the natural world. He began removing his boots and outer cloak, his movements efficient but unhurried. The water's deep there, but I'm a strong swimmer. Celeste felt a flutter of relief, mixed with something else she couldn't quite identify. Please be careful, she found herself saying, though she barely knew this stranger. The swan seems badly injured, and I fear it may be frightened of humans. Finn nodded, studying the distressed bird with the same careful attention he might give to tracking deer through dense forest. Swans can be aggressive when they're hurt, he agreed, but this one looks more exhausted than angry. He waded into the lake, moving slowly to avoid creating waves that might further distress the creature. As he swam toward the injured swan, Celeste found herself holding her breath. There was something almost magical about watching him move through the water, his strokes smooth and purposeful, his approach to the frightened bird patient and gentle. The other swans seemed to sense his peaceful intentions, gradually settling their anxious circling to watch from a respectful distance. When Finn reached the silver swan, he spoke to it in low, soothing tones, the same voice he might use to calm a skittish horse or frightened fawn. The magnificent bird regarded him with eyes that seemed far too intelligent for a wild creature, and to both Finn and Celeste's amazement, it allowed him to come close enough to examine its injured wing. It's not broken, Finn called back to the princess, his voice carrying clearly across the still water. But the wing is badly strained, and there's a tangle of fishing line wrapped around it. Someone's been careless with their equipment. Working with infinite patience, Finn began to free the swan from the nearly invisible threads that bound its wing. The bird trembled but remained still, as if it understood that this human meant only kindness. As the last of the line fell away, the swan stretched its wing experimentally, testing its range of motion. It was in that moment that something extraordinary happened. The morning mist that had been hovering over the lake began to swirl and thicken, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. Both Finn and Celeste felt a tingling sensation, as if the very atmosphere around them had become charged with ancient magic. The silver swan began to glow with the same ethereal radiance as the mist, its feathers catching and reflecting light that seemed to come from within rather than from the rising sun. The bird's form wavered and blurred, and suddenly, where the swan had been floating, there appeared a figure that made both young people gasp in wonder and disbelief. she was a woman of otherworldly beauty, with long silver hair that floated around her like spun starlight, and skin that seemed to have captured the pearl essence of moonbeams. Her dress appeared to be woven from mist and water, flowing around her as if she were still swimming, rather than floating on the lake's surface. But most striking of all were her eyes, ancient and wise, and filled with a sadness that spoke of centuries of longing. "You have freed me from my bonds," the Swan Maiden said, her voice like the whisper of wind through silver bells. "For 300 years, I have been trapped in that form by a curse that could only be broken by an act of pure compassion from two hearts that recognize their destiny in each other." Finn found his voice first, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "You're a Swan Maiden. I thought they were just legends." The ethereal woman smiled, and her expression carried both infinite gentleness and deep melancholy. "Many things that mortals call legend are simply truths that have been forgotten or misunderstood. I am Seraphina, guardian of this lake and protector of all the creatures that dwell within and around it. Long ago, I was cursed by a jealous sorcerer who sought to claim my magic for his own dark purposes." Princess Celeste waded deeper into the water, drawn by an inexplicable sense that this moment was somehow crucial to her own fate. "How did our helping you break such an ancient curse?" Seraphina's gaze moved between the princess and the archer, and her smile grew warmer. "The curse could only be broken by two souls who were destined for each other, acting together out of pure love for all living things. Your compassion for my suffering, combined with your willingness to help each other without thought of reward or recognition, created the magic necessary to free me." The Swan Maiden raised her hand, and the water around them began to glow with the same silver radiance that emanated from her form. "But my freedom comes with a price, as all magic does. The curse that bound me must be transferred, though in a much gentler form than what I endured." A chill ran through Celeste that had nothing to do with the cold lake water. "What do you mean?" "One of you must take on the burden of transformation," Seraphina explained, her voice filled with regret. "But unlike my curse, this one can be broken by true love's recognition, and it will last only until the next full moon, not for centuries as mine did." Finn and Celeste looked at each other across the glowing water, and in that shared glance, both understood that their lives had just become irrevocably intertwined with forces far greater than either had imagined. The morning that had begun with a simple walk in the garden had become the beginning of an adventure that would test not only their courage, but the very nature of the connection they had felt in their first moment of meeting. The Swan Maiden's magic swirled around them like liquid starlight, and both young people knew that whatever choice they made in the next few moments would determine not only their own fates, but the destiny of the kingdom itself. For ancient magic, once awakened, rarely limits itself to affecting only those who initially encounter it. Finn was the first to speak, his voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. "I'll take the curse. Princess Celeste has duties to her people and her father. My life is my own to risk." But Celeste shook her head firmly, surprising herself with the strength of her conviction. "No, I won't allow someone else to suffer for my actions. If helping the swan was my choice, then facing the consequences should be mine as well." Seraphina watched this exchange with eyes that held centuries of wisdom, and something in her expression suggested that their responses were exactly what she had expected. "You both possess noble hearts, she said softly. "But the choice is not yours to make. The magic will decide based on which of you has the greater capacity to learn what love truly means." The silver light around them pulsed brighter, and suddenly Celeste felt a strange, tingling sensation coursing through her body. She looked down at her hands and gasped as she watched them beginning to shimmer with the same ethereal radiance that surrounded the Swan Maiden. "The magic has chosen," Serafina said, her voice filled with both sorrow and hope. "Princess Celeste, you will take on the form of a swan each day, from sunrise to sunset. Only when someone sees beyond the transformation to recognize your true self and loves you not despite the curse, but including it as part of who you are, will you be free." The transformation began slowly, a tingling warmth that spread from Celeste's fingertips through her entire being. But there was no pain, only a strange sense of lightness, as if she were becoming part of the very air and water around her. Her gown dissolved into mist, replaced by feathers of the purest white, touched with silver that caught the morning light like captured stars. Finn watched in amazement and growing concern as the beautiful princess became an equally beautiful swan, though something in the bird's intelligent blue eyes remained unmistakably human. He reached out instinctively, and to his surprise, the Swan Princess swam closer rather than away, allowing him to gently stroke the soft feathers of her neck. "I will find a way to break this curse," he promised, speaking to the swan, but knowing somehow that Celeste could understand every word. "Whatever it takes, however long it takes, I won't rest until you're free." The swan, that was Princess Celeste, made a sound that was almost like a sigh, filled with gratitude and something deeper. Then, as the sun climbed higher in the sky, she swam to the center of the lake to join the other swans. Though she remained apart from them, a creature caught between two worlds, Serafina began to fade as the morning mist dispersed, her form becoming more translucent with each passing moment. "Remember, young archer," she called softly, her voice already growing distant. "True love sees not just beauty, but the soul within. And sometimes the greatest magic happens not when we try to change someone we love, but when we learn to love them exactly as they are." With those words, the Swan Maiden vanished completely, leaving only the faint scent of water lilies and the gentle sound of ripples lapping against the shore. Finn stood alone at the water's edge, watching the white swan that contained the heart of a princess, and felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders like a mantle he had never asked to wear, but would bear with honor. The curse had been set in motion, but so had something else, something that felt like the beginning of a love story, written in starlight and sealed with magic that was older than the kingdom itself. As the sun rose higher and the morning officially began, Finn made a silent vow that would guide every action he took in the days to come. He would learn to love a princess who was also a swan, and somehow, in that learning, he would find the key to setting them both free. The castle bells chimed 8 times as Finn made his way up the winding path to the main gates, his mind still reeling from the morning's extraordinary events. Every few steps, he turned back to look at the lake, where a solitary white swan glided among her companions, somehow managing to appear both perfectly at home and utterly alone. His heart ached with a mixture of wonder and determination that he had never experienced before. The guards at the gate recognized him immediately. Word of the young archer's skill had reached even the castle's stone walls, and they waved him through with respectful nods. But as Finn crossed the courtyard, He realized he faced an impossible dilemma. How could he explain to King Aldrich that his beloved daughter had been transformed by ancient magic? How could he make anyone believe what he himself could barely comprehend? The head gamekeeper, a grizzled man named Willem, with hands like leather and eyes sharp as a hawk's, met him at the stables. "You're late, boy," Willem said, though his tone held more curiosity than reproach. "The king's been asking for you since dawn." Finn forced himself to focus on the task at hand. "I apologize. There was an incident at the lake that required attention." The words felt inadequate, almost laughable given what had actually occurred, but they would have to suffice. Willem studied him with the careful gaze of someone who had spent decades reading both men and beasts. "You look like you've seen a ghost, lad. Everything all right?" Before Finn could answer, a commotion erupted from the direction of the royal chambers. Servants were rushing about, their faces tight with worry, and the sound of the king's voice, raised in obvious distress, echoed across the courtyard. "The princess," one of the maids was saying to another as they hurried past. "She's nowhere to be found. Her bed wasn't slept in, and her morning gown is still laid out. It's as if she simply vanished into thin air." Finn's stomach dropped like a stone thrown into deep water. Of course, they couldn't find her. How could they, when she was floating on the lake in a form they would never think to recognize? He watched the growing panic around him and knew he had to make a choice: reveal the truth and risk being branded a madman, or find another way to help while keeping the princess's secret safe. Willem grabbed his arm. "Come on, boy. Whatever business you had with poachers will have to wait. Every able body in the kingdom will be searching for Princess Celeste before the hour is out." The great hall buzzed with urgent activity as nobles, guards, and servants organized search parties. King Aldrich stood at the center of it all, his usually composed demeanor cracked with worry. He was a man who had faced wars and political crises with steady resolve, but the disappearance of his only child had shaken him to his core. "She was seen yesterday evening, in perfect health and spirits," the king was saying to his advisors. There were no signs of distress, no indication she planned to leave the castle. Someone must have taken her. Lord Garrett, the king's chief counselor, nodded gravely. "We've already sent riders to question every inn and tavern within a day's journey. If kidnappers are involved, we'll find them." Finn found himself stepping forward before he fully realized what he was doing. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the hall. Conversations stopped, and all eyes turned to the young archer who had dared to interrupt royal deliberations. King Aldrich looked at him with a mixture of hope and desperation. "You're the tracker Willem sent for. Do you have news of my daughter?" The moment stretched like a bowstring, drawn taut. Finn could feel the weight of truth pressing against his lips. But something in Seraphina's final words held him back. The magic had chosen its own path, and perhaps revealing it too soon would only cause more harm than good. "I have not found the princess, Your Majesty," Finn said carefully, "but I may be able to help in ways others cannot. I know every path through the royal forest, every hiding place a frightened person might seek shelter. Give me permission to search alone, without the noise and commotion of larger parties, and I promise you, I will not rest until I bring you word of her fate." The king studied him intently. There was something about this young man's earnest conviction that inspired confidence despite his common birth. "You speak as if you know she lives." Finn met the royal gaze steadily. I believe she does, Your Majesty, and I believe she needs our help, though perhaps not in the way we might expect." After a moment that felt like hours, King Aldrich nodded. "Very well. You have my permission to search as you see fit, but I want daily reports. And if you find any trace of her, any clue at all, you are to return immediately." As the crowd dispersed to organize their various search efforts, Finn made his way back toward the lake. He had bought himself time, but he knew that each day would bring greater pressure to produce results. More importantly, each day would mean another sunset, when Princess Celeste remained trapped in her transformed state. The afternoon sun hung high overhead when he reached the water's edge again. The white swan was there, floating near the reeds at the far shore, and as soon as she saw him, she began swimming in his direction. There was something almost human about the way she moved, a grace that went beyond mere animal instinct. Finn sat on the marble bench where the princess had surely sat countless times before, and spoke to the swan as if she were still in human form. "I've told your father I'm searching for you, which is true enough. But Celeste, I need you to help me understand this curse. Seraphina said it could be broken by true love's recognition. But what does that really mean?" The swan tilted her head, those intelligent blue eyes fixing on his face with an intensity that made his breath catch. Then, to his amazement, she began to swim in a deliberate pattern across the water's surface. It took him several minutes to realize she was tracing letters, spelling out words with her graceful movements. "Trust," she spelled first, then began again. "Time." Finn felt a surge of hope mixed with admiration. Even transformed, Celeste was finding ways to communicate, to bridge the gap between her two forms. "You want me to trust that time will reveal the answer?" The swan bobbed her head in what was unmistakably a nod, then swam closer to the shore. When she was near enough, she stretched her elegant neck toward him, and Finn reached out to gently stroke her feathers. They were impossibly soft, and he could swear he felt warmth that had nothing to do with the sun's rays. "I promise you," he said softly, "I will find the key to breaking this curse. But Celeste, you need to promise me something too. Promise me you won't lose hope, no matter how long it takes." The swan's response was to rest her head briefly against his hand, a gesture so tender and trusting that Finn felt his heart constrict with emotions he had never experienced before. This was more than attraction, more than the desire to help someone in need. This was the beginning of something deeper, something that grew stronger with each moment they shared. As evening approached and the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, something magical happened again. The air around the lake shimmered with the same ethereal light that had surrounded Seraphina's transformation, and the swan's form began to blur and shift. Feathers became flowing fabric, wings became arms, and suddenly, Princess Celeste stood in the shallows, human once more. But the transformation had taken its toll. She swayed on her feet, exhausted by the magical process, and Finn immediately waded into the water to steady her. His cloak went around her shoulders, and for a moment they stood there in the gentle lapping of the lake, closer than propriety would normally allow. Yet somehow it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Thank you," Celeste whispered, her voice hoarse from a day of silence, "for not running away, for not thinking me mad or cursed beyond help." Finn looked into her eyes, seeing in them the same intelligence and spirit that had shone through even in her swan form. "How could I run from someone so brave? You've spent the day learning to live in an entirely different form, finding ways to communicate across the boundaries of magic itself. If anything, I'm in awe of your strength." They made their way to the shore together, and Celeste settled on the marble bench while Finn built a small fire from driftwood and dried reeds. The flames cast dancing shadows across the water, and in their warm glow, the princess looked even more ethereal than before. "Tell me about yourself," Celeste said suddenly. "I know you're an archer, and I know you have the kindest heart I've ever encountered. But what else? What dreams do you carry? What fears?" It was such an unexpected question, from royalty to a commoner, that Finn was momentarily speechless. In his experience, nobles rarely showed genuine interest in the inner lives of those they considered beneath their station. But Princess Celeste watched him with the same focused attention she might give to matters of state. "I dream of a world where strength is used to protect rather than conquer," Finn said slowly, surprised by his own honesty. "Where people value wisdom over wealth, kindness over power. I fear that I'm not enough, that when truly tested, I'll fail those who depend on me." Celeste nodded thoughtfully. "Those are the fears of someone who cares deeply about doing right. A person who didn't care wouldn't worry about failing others." They talked through the night, sharing stories, dreams, and fears with an openness that felt both natural and extraordinary. Celeste told him about the loneliness of royal life, about feeling like a beautiful ornament rather than a person with thoughts and desires of her own. Finn spoke of his grandfather's teachings, of learning to see the world through the eyes of all its creatures, not just humans. As dawn approached, they both felt the familiar shimmer in the air that signaled the curse's return. This time, Celeste faced the transformation with more courage, though Finn could see the sadness in her eyes as her human form began to fade. "Will you come back tonight?" she asked, her voice already growing faint as the magic took hold. "Every night," Finn promised. "Until we find a way to break this curse, I'll be here every single evening." The white swan that emerged from the magical light seemed to glow with inner warmth, and as she swam away to spend another day among her feathered companions, Finn felt something settle in his chest, like a seed taking root. What he felt for Princess Celeste was growing beyond mere attraction, or even admiration. It was becoming love, true and deep and unshakable. But he was beginning to understand that breaking the curse would require more than just loving her. It would require learning to love all of her, human and swan, princess and wild creature, perfect and imperfect, exactly as she was. The magic demanded nothing less than complete acceptance, and Finn found himself looking forward to the challenge. After all, how could he not love someone brave enough to face transformation with grace, intelligent enough to find ways to communicate across the barriers of form, and generous enough to trust a stranger with her deepest vulnerabilities? The curse might have been meant as punishment, but Finn was beginning to suspect it was actually a gift, a chance to know someone's true heart before the complications of crown and kingdom could interfere. As he made his way back to report to the king that the search continued, Finn carried with him the memory of starlight reflected in both human eyes and Swan's gaze, and the growing certainty that some magic was worth whatever price it demanded. It demanded. Day after day, the pattern continued. Finn would arrive at the lake as the morning sun painted the water gold, watching as Princess Celeste glided among the other swans with movements that somehow retained her human grace. He learned to read her moods in the tilt of her head, the speed of her swimming, the way she held her wings. When she was frustrated by her inability to help with royal duties, she swam in agitated circles. When she was content, she floated serenely near the water lilies, occasionally dipping her beak to sample the sweet nectar. The young archer had arranged his life around these dual existences. By day, he maintained the pretense of searching for the missing princess, following cold trails through the forest and interviewing villagers who claimed to have seen suspicious strangers. His reports to King Aldrich were carefully crafted truths. He was indeed watching over the princess, protecting her from harm, ensuring her safety. The king, growing more haggard with each passing day, clung to Finn's quiet confidence that his daughter still lived. But it was the evenings that had become the center of Finn's world. As twilight painted the sky in shades of rose and lavender, he would return to the lake's edge with anticipation that made his heart race. The moment of transformation had become sacred to him, a daily miracle he witnessed with wonder that never diminished. Tonight marked their 7th evening together, and Celeste emerged from her swan form with increasing ease, as if her spirit was learning to flow between shapes like water between vessels. She wore a gown that appeared to be woven from moonlight itself, another gift of the magic that sustained her between sunset and dawn. "I've been thinking," she said, settling beside him on the stone bench they had come to consider their own, "about what Serafina meant when she spoke of true love's recognition. I believe it means seeing someone not as you wish them to be, but as they truly are, in all their complexity." Finn added another piece of driftwood to their fire, watching sparks dance upward toward the emerging stars. "You sound as though you've reached some understanding." Celeste drew her knees up, wrapping her arms around them in a gesture that was both vulnerable and thoughtful. "I've spent my entire life being seen as a symbol rather than a person. The beautiful princess, the dutiful daughter, the perfect bride. Even my kindness was praised, as though it were a performance for others' benefit, rather than a genuine part of who I am." The firelight played across her features as she continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "But you see me as Celeste, who happens to be a princess, not Princess Celeste, who happens to have thoughts and feelings. You see me as someone who is both human and swan, both royal and wild, both strong and vulnerable. You don't try to save me from the curse, because you think I'm too delicate to bear it. You help me navigate it, because you believe I'm capable of growing through it." Finn felt something shift in his understanding, like pieces of a puzzle suddenly clicking into place. "And I've been learning that love isn't about protecting someone from all hardship, but about standing beside them as they face whatever challenges come their way." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the reflection of stars dance on the water's surface. Around them, night sounds created a gentle symphony, the soft splash of fish jumping, the rustle of reeds in the evening breeze, the distant call of an owl beginning its nocturnal hunt. "Tell me about your dreams," Celeste said softly. "Not the ones you carry for the world, but the personal ones. The ones that make your heart sing when you imagine them coming true." Finn considered this, surprised by how easily the answer came to him. "I dream of a life where every day brings small acts of wonder, where I wake beside someone who sees magic in ordinary moments, who challenges me to be better while accepting who I am now. I dream of children who learn to respect all living creatures, of a home filled with laughter and learning and love that grows deeper with each passing season." Celeste's smile was radiant in the firelight. Those are beautiful dreams. They speak of a heart that understands what truly matters. And what of your dreams? Finn asked. Beyond duty and expectation, what calls to your soul? For a moment, vulnerability flickered across her features. I dream of being valued for my mind as well as my beauty, for my ideas as much as my bloodline. I dream of using my position to make real differences in people's lives, not just appearing at ceremonies and looking lovely. I dream of love that sees all of me and chooses all of me. Swan form and human form, royal responsibilities and wild yearnings. Their conversation wove through the night like the gentle current of the lake itself, touching on philosophy and poetry, on the nature of courage and the different forms love could take. They debated whether true strength lay in standing firm or in learning to bend, whether wisdom came from age or from remaining open to wonder, regardless of one's years. As the hours passed, something subtle but profound was shifting between them. The attraction that had sparked at their first meeting was deepening into something more complex and enduring. Finn found himself falling in love not just with Celeste's beauty or her kindness, but with the way her mind worked, the questions she asked, the insights she shared. He loved her laugh when he told stories of his woodland adventures, the way she listened with her whole being when he spoke of his hopes for the future. For her part, Celeste was discovering that love could be partnership as well as passion. Finn didn't try to diminish her intelligence or redirect her interests toward more traditionally feminine pursuits. He encouraged her political ideas, asked thoughtful questions about her observations of court life, and treated her opinions as valuable contributions to their discussions rather than charming diversions. I have a confession, Celeste said, as the night began its slow retreat toward dawn. These evenings with you have become more precious to me than any royal ball or state dinner I've ever attended. Here, by this lake, I feel more myself than I ever have in the palace. Finn reached for her hand, marveling at how perfectly it fit in his own. I understand. When I'm with you, I feel like the person I was always meant to become. Not because you're trying to change me, but because you inspire me to grow into my best self. The first hint of gray was beginning to touch the eastern horizon when Celeste suddenly stiffened, her gaze fixed on something beyond the lake. Following her line of sight, Finn saw torches moving through the forest, coming closer to their secluded sanctuary. "Search party," he murmured, recognizing the organized pattern of the approaching lights. Someone must have seen our fire and reported it to the guards. Celeste rose gracefully, her magical gown shimmering as she prepared to face the day's transformation. They cannot find me here. Not like this. The questions would be impossible to answer without revealing the curse, and I'm not certain the magic would protect others if they tried to interfere. The approaching voices grew clearer, and they could hear Willem's distinctive bark issuing orders to spread out and search thoroughly. In minutes, they would discover the fire, the evidence of someone's presence at the lake. "Go," Finn urged, his heart aching at the necessity. "Transform now, while you still can choose the timing. I'll handle the search party." Celeste paused, her hand touching his cheek with infinite tenderness. "Finn, I need you to know something. Whatever happens, these nights with you have been the most real, the most true, the most myself I have ever been. The curse brought us together, but what I feel for you has nothing to do with magic and everything to do with the man you are." Before he could respond, she stepped back and opened her arms to the approaching dawn. The familiar shimmer of magic surrounded her, but this time, Finn noticed something different. The transformation seemed gentler somehow, less like a punishment, and more like a natural flowing from one state of being to another. The white swan that emerged from the fading light swam close to shore one final time, her blue eyes meeting his with an intensity that conveyed what words could not. Then she glided away toward the center of the lake, taking her place among the other swans, just as Willem's torch emerged from the tree line. "Finn!" the gamekeeper called out, relief evident in his voice. "We saw smoke and feared the worst. What are you doing out here at this hour?" The young archer stood and began scattering the remains of his fire, his movements calm despite the rapid beating of his heart. "I couldn't sleep, so I came here to think. Sometimes the lake helps clear my mind." Willem studied him with those sharp eyes that missed little, finding anything useful in all that thinking. The king's growing desperate, lad. It's been a week since the princess vanished, and we're no closer to answers than we were the first day. Finn looked out at the lake, where a white swan floated serenely among her companions, and felt the weight of truth pressing against his conscience. "I believe we're closer than we think, Willem. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us, but we have to learn how to see it properly." As the search party retreated into the forest and the lake returned to its peaceful silence, Finn remained at the water's edge, watching the white swan who carried the heart of a princess. He understood now that love was not about solving someone's problems or removing their challenges. It was about seeing them completely, accepting them entirely, and choosing to walk beside them through whatever transformations life might bring. The curse had taught them both that true recognition meant loving not just the beautiful moments, but the difficult ones too. Not just the human form, but the swan as well. Not just the perfect, but the whole. And in that understanding, though neither yet knew it, the first threads of the ancient magic had begun to unravel, preparing to weave something new in their place, something that would transform not just a curse, but two hearts learning that love's greatest magic lies not in changing who we are, but in being truly seen for who we are. Let this tale carry you gently into dreams, where love stories write themselves in starlight, and every ending is also a beginning.